Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a situation that's causing some serious tension at home. Am I the jerk for insisting my wife handle the housework after she spent our designated cleaning budget on herself? I work a high-paying, industrial job in a different city, and it takes a huge physical toll on me. I'll admit it, when I'm off the clock, I'm pretty lazy. But because I make a good living, I've always been happy to pay other people to handle the domestic stuff. Before I got married, I had a regular cleaning service and a local kid who did the landscaping and snow removal. My wife Elena knew this from day one. I never hid that I outsourced my chores. In fact, she seemed to really appreciate that when she visited. The house was always spotless and the pantry was actually stocked. Before we got married, Elena lived with her family to stay debt-free while she paid off her car loans. I suggested she move into my place while I was away for work, but her parents are super old-fashioned, so she refused. We finally got married last August, and she moved in. She is an incredible person, and her work ethic honestly puts mine to shame. I even offered to pay off her loans as a wedding gift, but she's very prideful and turned me down flat. Instead, she proposed a trade-off. She offered to take over all the cleaning, yard work, and grocery shopping herself. In exchange, she wanted the monthly cash I used to pay the service providers to be added directly to her personal spending budget. I was a bit hesitant, but some of my colleagues' wives do something similar and it works for them, so I agreed to give it a shot. The real issue here is how differently we were raised. Her father is one of those guys who insists on doing every single repair and chore himself. I'm the complete opposite. I have no problem paying a professional to clean the gutters, fix a leak, or handle wiring. I work 14 days straight on a grueling schedule, and when I finally get home, my only goal is to relax and spend time with my dog. Speaking of my dog, he used to stay with my parents while I was away, but now he's home full-time with Elena. Since we got married late in the season, the lawn wasn't an issue after our honeymoon. But winter finally hit us hard, and we just got our first massive snowfall. I was heading home last night when I found out Elena had told our neighborhood kid not to come by to shovel. She decided to keep the cash for herself instead. Look, we're a team, so I didn't mind her making that call. But here's the thing, regardless of what her dad thinks a real man should do, I don't shovel snow. I'm not interested in the back strain, and I don't want to spend my limited time off getting sweaty and exhausted. This morning, I reminded her that if the sidewalk isn't cleared within 48 hours, the city will issue a citation. They'll send a municipal crew to do it, and we'll get stuck with a massive bill at union labor rates. She told me I should just go out and do it myself. I told her that while I'm physically capable of it, I wasn't going to. I had already budgeted for that service, and she was the one who took the money. She tried calling the local kid back, but he was already at school and his afternoon was fully booked. She ended up having to clear the driveway herself, and now she's furious. She keeps saying I'm being lazy because I could have helped. And she's right, I could have. But I don't want to. Ivy spent years working hard specifically so I would never have to do that kind of manual labor at home again. I even miss the days when my cleaning service would unload the dishwasher for me. In my mind, if you accept payment for a job, you accept the responsibility to get it done. She married me, not her dad. So, am I the jerk here for expecting her to follow through on our deal? The bottom line is that Elena knew exactly who I was. She knew I hire professionals because I don't want to deal with those tasks. The problem here is the double standard. She had no problem canceling the service and pocketing the cash, but when the work needed to be done, she expected me to step in. Let's see what some of you are saying in the comments. MountainLife_88 says, not the jerk. But honestly, if you want things done right, stop giving the money to your wife and start paying the professionals again. RealityCheck_Jen writes, definitely not the jerk. If she's going to pocket the cash, she has to do the work. She doesn't get to keep the payment and then demand that you provide the labor. Logic first underscore 50 comments. I'm still trying to wrap my head around her logic. How do you turn the neighborhood kid away, keep the money, and then tell your husband to shovel? That takes a lot of nerve. And Future Hope adds, this isn't just about snow, it's a communication breakdown. You guys need a serious talk about expectations, or this resentment is only going to grow. Finally, Claire underscore C makes a great point. You aren't the jerk, but you and your wife need a serious heart-to-heart. Some people view housework as a moral obligation. Others see it as a cost-benefit analysis. If she views your preference for outsourcing as a character flaw, it's going to breed massive resentment. And resentment is the silent killer of relationships. Just to add some more context, I work in the Northern Territories on massive infrastructure projects. It's grueling, 14-hour-a-day physical labor for 2 weeks straight. When I get home, I am physically spent. I'm not being elitist, I'm being practical. My wife knew this long before the wedding. The agreement to give her the chore fund was her idea. I didn't force her to be the housekeeper, she wanted the extra income. The issue isn't that I'm too good to shovel. It's that the money was already allocated to a kid to do the job. She intercepted him, sent him away, and kept the cash. At that point, the responsibility for the task followed the money. Well, here's the update. We just got hit with another massive blizzard. My wife knew I wasn't going to shovel, and she clearly didn't want to do it either. Instead of calling a service, she called her father for help. He told her he'd come over to handle it, and then have a word with me about my work ethic. Honestly, fine by me. I was perfectly happy staying warm inside with my dog. However, I had already gone behind her back and rehired the neighborhood kid. He had already finished the job, been paid, and was scheduled for the rest of the season. I was fully prepared to tell her father to stay out of our private financial business when he arrived. As it turns out, her dad never made it. He started by shoveling his own walkway, slipped on some ice, and threw out his back. His wife and son had to help him back inside and finish the job for him. Here's a quick update for everyone who followed my last story. Ironically, my father-in-law, who pays an whole fee specifically for snow removal, decided to shovel his own driveway and ended up getting hurt. Thankfully, it wasn't serious, no broken bones or anything, but it did put a stop to his plan to come over and teach me a lesson. The doctors gave him the all clear, but the forecast called for more snow. That's when my wife asked me to go over and shovel for them. Her mom can't do it, and her brother, who only showed up for the emergency, had to get back to work. I told her no, but I did offer a solution. I volunteered to pay for the kid who clears my driveway to go over and handle it for them. I even offered to drive the kid there myself and use that time to have a much-needed chat with her father about boundaries. And guess what? My wife finally came around. She agreed that from now on, we're going back to paying for professional landscaping and snow removal. I'm still working on getting our housekeeper back, but it's progress. I also proposed a new plan for her debt. I'll pay off her car and loans completely. In return, the money she was using for those payments will go straight into her retirement fund. It's a win-win for our future. So, it took a massive snowstorm and a family drama, but she finally understands that my time off is for relaxing, not for manual labor. Hopefully, the talk with her dad goes well and he learns to stop meddling in our marriage. I'm looking forward to getting my housekeeper back and enjoying some peace and quiet. Thanks for all the support, everyone. Now, let's dive into our next story, which also has a jaw-dropping update. This one comes from the Am I Overreacting community, and the user asks, am I overreacting to how my boyfriend behaved when meeting my parents for the first time? She writes, I've been dating my boyfriend, Liam, for about a year. He didn't have any family plans for Thanksgiving, so I invited him to my parents' house. We flew out about a week before the holiday. Everything was totally normal packing, the airport, the flight. Liam was his usual self. But the second we landed, and he saw my dad waiting for us at arrivals, a switch just flipped. He became incredibly quiet. Now, for some important background, I have two fathers. My dad, who is 46, and my appa, who is 44. I was born via a surrogate who is a close family friend, basically an aunt to me. Biologically, I'm related to my appa, but they are both my parents in every single way. When we met them, Liam shook their hands, introduced himself, and seemed fine for about 30 seconds. But as soon as we got in the car, he went completely silent. He barely said a word during the ride or through dinner. It wasn't until we were alone in our room that night that he finally snapped. He confronted me, asking in this really accusatory tone why I had hidden the fact that I had two dads. I was completely blindsided. I know I've mentioned it before. As the daughter of two gay men, I don't always make it the first thing I talk about because people can be weird, but I've always been open about having a dad and an appa. It is possible he didn't realize appa is the Korean word for dad. Since Liam is white, maybe it just went over his head. We had a small argument. I told him I wasn't keeping secrets, but I also didn't understand why it was such a big deal. He just huffed, said he needed time to think, and went to sleep without another word. The next day was our Thanksgiving feast, and Liam was just as cold. I tried to pull him into conversations, but he just sat there, moving food around on his plate. I could tell it was hurting my appa's feelings because he is an amazing cook and takes so much pride in it. The real breaking point came after dinner. My appa politely asked Liam if he could help clear the table and bring out dessert. Liam looked him dead in the eye and said, "No, I'm going out for a smoke," and just walked out the door. I was mortified. I apologized to my parents, totally confused about what had gotten into him. 30 minutes went by, and he wasn't back, so I went to check on him. He was gone. I called his phone, and he told me he couldn't stay in that house. He said he was checking into a hotel and that I should just bring his bags to the airport the next day. When I asked what I'd done wrong, he muttered something about not wanting to discuss it over the phone and hung up. I went back inside and told my parents what happened. They were incredibly sweet, and we just curled up on the couch and watched movies. The next morning at the airport, Liam was like a statue. He wouldn't look at me or speak. Every time I tried to talk, he just said, "We'll talk about it later." Well, it's been 3 days since we got home, and he hasn't called or texted. I guess later hasn't arrived yet. So, am I overreacting for wanting to end things right now? I don't even know what I did wrong. I am pretty sure he isn't homophobic. His own brother and his best friend are both gay, and he's always been supportive of them. I feel stuck. I feel a duty to hear his side, but I also feel completely disrespected. This is my first serious relationship, and I'd hate to see it end over a misunderstanding, but his behavior was just inexcusable. Okay, my opinion. You are not overreacting at all. He acted like a complete jerk. Even if there's some other mysterious reason, it doesn't excuse being a terrible guest and disrespecting your parents in their home. You don't need a good enough reason to leave someone who treats you with such contempt. But let's see what the community had to say. One user wrote, "Honey, you're already broken up, he just hasn't told you yet. You are lucky to be rid of him. He spent his vacation judging your family instead of enjoying their hospitality. Don't even bother reaching out." Another said, "Not overreacting. Whether it's hidden prejudice or just immaturity, he was rude and grateful, and weirdly controlling. You have no duty to hear out someone who abandons you at your parents' house. This relationship did end over something stupid, and that something stupid was your boyfriend." And another added, "The fact that he is fine with his gay brother but weird about your dad suggests a deep-seated double standard. His silence is your answer. Block him and enjoy your life with your awesome parents." The community was unanimous. She wasn't the problem. And then, the silence finally broke. After 4.5 days, Liam sent her a text. He said he wanted to be honest. He claimed that when he imagined meeting her parents, he pictured a black father and an Asian mother, and finding out she had two dads was disappointing to him. She was absolutely floored. She asked him what that was even supposed to mean and reminded him she'd mentioned her parents multiple times, even using pronouns like he and him when talking about her appa. But Liam didn't back down. He insisted she never told him, and since he didn't remember it, it didn't matter. She was fuming but tried to stay calm, telling him his bad memory wasn't her problem. Then the conversation went into the twilight zone. Out of nowhere, he asked if she knew her birth mother. Confused, she asked what that had to do with anything. He told her, and this is just unbelievable that he wanted to meet her. Why? So he could get an idea of what she would look like when she is older. His explanation got even worse. He said he had no idea if she'd still be attractive in her 40s. He then went on a weird tangent about how he heard Asians usually age well, but he wanted to be sure. That was the moment she snapped. She asked him what his problem was and if he'd suffered a head injury on the flight. He had the nerve to act like she was being unreasonable, asking, "Don't you want to know if I am still going to be hot in 20 years? That was it. She told him she couldn't care less what he looked like because they were officially done. She told him where he could go and blocked him. She ended her post by saying, "You all were right, I should have dumped him a long time ago. I feel like I've wasted a year of my life, but at least the trash took itself out. I'm going to go delete some photos and call my dad's." It really was something stupid. Incredibly stupid. Wow, it hurts now, but honestly, you just filtered a very, very shallow person out of your life. Here's another great story from the petty revenge community. Our narrator, let's call him Steve, found a really creative way to deal with a persistent spoiler. I used to work in a comic book shop. We had a lot of regulars, and I got to know quite a few of them pretty well. One guy in particular was a massive sci-fi fan, just like me. One day, I mentioned to him that I had just started watching Stargate from the very beginning. I told him how excited I was because I'd never actually seen the final 3 seasons or any of the spin-off shows. Immediately, without even a pause, he blurts out, "Oh, so you don't know about," and he starts to reveal a major plot point. I stopped him right there. I was like, "Dude, no spoilers. I want to experience it for myself." You'd think that would be the end of it, but it absolutely wasn't. For the next 2 months, every single week without fail, he would come into the shop and spoil something. A major character death, a huge plot twist from the later seasons, anything he could think of. I asked him repeatedly to stop. I was polite at first, then I got a bit more firm. But he'd just smirk, you know. He clearly thought it was hilarious. I knew he was doing it on purpose, just to get a reaction out of me. It went from being a minor annoyance to something that genuinely started to ruin the show for me. I was getting so frustrated. I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what. The customer is always right, but this guy was pushing it. Then, one afternoon, the perfect opportunity presented itself. He came into the shop to pick up a huge stack of comics he'd pre-ordered. This wasn't just a few books, it was a massive pile, probably a month's worth of his favorite titles. He brought them up to the counter, and I could see how excited he was to dive into them. I waited for him to pay, and the transaction went through. He was expecting me to just bag them up like I always did, but this time, I did something different. Instead of bagging them, I took the entire stack and fanned them out across the counter, like a deck of cards. Now, you have to understand, back then, part of my job and my passion was reading almost every single new release from Marvel and DC the second they hit the shelves. It was my way of staying on top of the industry and being able to give good recommendations. And as luck would have it, I had already read every single comic book in his pile. So, I pointed to the first comic. And I spoiled the ending. Then I moved to the next one. I spoiled the shocking character death on the final page. I went on, one by one, through his entire stack. I spoiled every twist, every cliffhanger, every big reveal, every single thing he was looking forward to reading. I didn't hold back. I detailed every single plot point with absolute precision. The whole time, he just stood there in stunned silence. The smirk was completely gone from his face. It was replaced with this look of pure, utter disbelief. He couldn't get a word in when I was finally done. The counter was covered in his now spoiled comics, and the silence in the shop was deafening. He slowly gathered his books, didn't say a single word to me, and walked out. You know what? He never mentioned Stargate to me again. He never spoiled anything ever again. He still came in as a regular, but our conversations were strictly about the weather or new comic releases. No more spoilers. Well, Steve certainly made his point loud and clear. It's a shame the guy wouldn't listen to a simple, polite request, but I think he finally learned his lesson about spoiling things for other people. A taste of his own medicine, you could say. Thanks for sharing that epic win with us, Steve. That's all for today's stories. If you've made it this far, I'm guessing you enjoyed the ride, and you're a true fan of clever revenge. If you want to hear more tales of people getting exactly what they deserve, check out the 2 videos on your screen right now. If you're short on time, no worries, just save them for later. But before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a story. We post new content all the time, and you don't want to be left out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.